all well on your ends? And I know Liam, this is torture for you, so that thumbs up will do just fine for the audio listeners. Craig, you well? It was a busy time of year for you in your profession.
Yep, it is. Hibs have to take a
Oh,
wee bit of a
Craig,
back
you
seat
well?
for
It was a
now,
busy
but
time of year for you.
other than that, all good.
Excellent. Love to hear it. Right, boys. Hibs, unfortunately, like we say, we suffered first defeat after two unbeaten there after a nice little run against Aberdeen and Motherwell. Harry, there was a little bit of a surprise potentially in that starting 11. Jordan Abita came straight back in, as did Lewis Miller, came in for Chris Cadden. What did you make of the changes that David Gray made to the team?
Aye, I wasn't really too sure what I would have done personally, so I wasn't really reading too much into the starting 11. I think they put a good performance in, so I think Gray definitely picked the right team. As we'll probably mention in the next 5 minutes, he was let down severely by, in particular, two individuals. But he can only pick the players that are available to him. So yeah, I think David Gray smashed up the team selection because they done exactly
Um,
what he asked them to do. It's not his fault they can't execute.
Liam, was there any? I'm saying there was a surprise, but what was it a surprise to you that the players came back in, or
Nah, not really, to be honest. I think Miller, probably for his defensive attributes, came back into the team. Made sense.
Mhm. Is that period full stop?
Aye. Yeah.
Nah, Craig, look, Hibs started on the front foot, and Kukurevich ultimately should have put us ahead. On reflection, I think I thought it was probably worse at the time, maybe than what it was. Still a really bad miss, but it is probably a better save than I thought at first instance. What's your thoughts on that? Sort of seeing it back.
Yeah, definitely. I was obviously keeping up to date with a mixture of radio and group chat, and you guys were absolutely roasting them, particularly after the first chance. And so I had it in my mind the whole time that it was like an absolute sitter that he's missed. It was a sitter, but I think you need to give Schmeichel on the first one a wee bit more credit. I thought it was a pretty smart save.
Sorry, if a striker's ran for 40 yards with a ball uncontested and he gets himself to a stage where he can only tatty poke it to the keeper's ankle, I'm not giving the keeper any credit. Obviously, Schmeichel saves it, but the ball's right at him. It's a terrible,
No, look,
terrible, terrible fucking
no,
effort.
no,
Not. There's
you're over
like
egging it, Harry.
no.
Like it is,
How am
it
I over
is,
egging it? He's a
because
striker. Like
he should score.
any striker on earth that's got anything about them should be putting that in a corner. If the
Right.
keeper makes an acrobatic save, gets right down really quickly, saves it, fair play. Kuharovic, whatever the fuck he wants to be called, fucked it. That's as simple as that. You can give the keeper credit if you want, but he fucked it. I'm not
Right.
being too harsh on him. It
Can I
was
can I
shit.
can I
It
speak?
was really
Can I?
fucking bad. You can speak, but I just wanted to say that. It was shit.
Right. Right. I mean that's way over the top, like
It's
way over the
absolutely not.
top.
Absolutely not.
Uh, it is a miss, and I totally
It's a
agree
shocking miss.
actually with the idea what Harry's saying in the sense that he definitely should score. It's one of these ones where he shouldn't give the keeper a chance.
Yeah,
However, he does give the keeper a chance, but it's still a good save. Like it's a good reaction save. It is, but he should score.
I thought at the time I didn't understand how he's ended up carrying the ball for however 40, 50 yards and managing to have to hit a shot with his weak foot. But seeing it back, I think it's clever play from him up until the finish, Liam. Like he cuts across the defender, like that sort of. He makes it impossible for the centre half to sort of touch him. He cuts across him. If he hits him, it's a penalty. But it's a really poor finish. Like I'm looking at Harry. I just want to keep him going. Harry, same here, same here.
What's happening here? We have a striker who missed a sitter, then he missed another sitter, then he faked an injury so he could get subbed off because he'd embarrassed himself that much.
The
Like,
Faking an
second one's
injury is a
bad.
big shout, man. That's a big
Uh,
shout, Harry.
I don't care at this point. Like we're talking about Hibs being absolutely like we had a good performance. Like we're talking about the biggest negative of the game, and we're trying to gloss over it as if it's not a big
I'm not
issue.
trying to
It's
gloss over it.
first minute of the game. Triantis plays a brilliant ball through to a striker who, if he has anything about him, puts it beyond the keeper. It's as simple as that. We're trying to be like, oh, it was a great save. The only reason it was a great save is because the keeper had a chance. The
Harry,
keeper needs
nobody's
to
trying to
score that
gloss
10
over it.
times out of 10.
I literally said that he should have scored and it was a poor miss, but you're just because you shout about it doesn't mean that you make your point any better.
The only reason I'm shouting about it is because I think these guys are being ludicrous. That's absolutely shocking. Like
Harry,
what
all
he's
I said was I don't
it's
think it
thanks to
was.
him that we've no won the game. Well, obviously we're probably weren't going to win anyway, even if we had scored in the first minute, but it gave us a chance.
I all I said was it wasn't as bad as what I thought it was to start, because at the start I thought it was like the worst miss of all eternity. Now look, like,
Well, you were correct to start with then.
let's not dissect everything bit by bit. It did set us off to a positive start. On the back of that, we get the corner, Cadner's a shot, blah blah blah. But then Celtic go ahead in the game. But Liam, just coming out of the game in general, what was your general mood? Like similar to Ibrox earlier in the season, thinking that maybe on another day we should have got something, or do you think on the balance of play Celtic deserved it?
I think similar to Ibrox, but I think different because frankly Celtic are a better team.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, I'd go as far as say you look at the run of results Rangers had, kind of either side of that result. I think we're probably saying that it would be less could have and more should have got something for that game. Whereas I think, in all honesty, I think if Miko scores one of the two great chances, Neil scores, Yuan scores, any of the various chances we have from the day, I think Celtic probably find another couple of gears and they bring Hatate and Bernardo off the bench and probably win by 3 clear goals anyway. In all honesty, like, I know it's all hypotheticals, but that's you give me a hypothetical question, so I'll give you
No,
that.
I know.
So I just think, to be honest, mate, like we should have got something to show for it in terms of a goal, but I don't think we'd have got anything from the game.
Yeah, I certainly feel like on another day Hibs could have got something out of the game. Do you know, like there's things. I mean, we had enough chances, but Celtic also had opportunities. I was speaking to a mate in work who's a Celtic season ticket holder, and I said that had that game finished 4-2 to Celtic, do you know what I mean? Like
That would have been fair.
Yeah, like that probably would have been.
Would have been reflective of the XG, funnily enough, as well.
Oh, really?
If the 142.
Okay.
I did, because I saw Aki was tweeting. Here we go. I'm going to fucking get a mention of XG in here, and it's going to make loads of people angry. But Aki mentioned the last team to get more than 1.5 XG against Celtic was Nick Montgomery's Hibs last season in the league. So we our XG was 2.3, I think, and theirs was 3.8. So I think you look at quality chances. Yes, probably should have scored, definitely. But they also had really good quality chances and probably could have scored one or two more quite easily on the day. So I just think you look at Kyogo's goal. I mean, that comes from a bad pass. Like that's how good he is. Like, so I just think it doesn't take a killer ball necessarily for them in the final third because they've got so much individual quality. Even the players that they brought into the team yesterday, they're playing two centre midfielders who are probably not first choice for them at the moment, and still had far too much for us, to be honest.
Bad having an £11 million player in your B side. That's I think that's why there has to be cause for optimism on a performance like that, though, when you are able to create chances. And I think, Craig, if we were to, well, I don't think I was on, but 2 weeks ago, the conversation that you guys were having on the back of Dens was entirely different to probably the general feeling that we have just now. And that is obviously on the back of 2 positive results. But for me, the biggest takeaway has to be that we did create the chances. You've went to Celtic Park to play a team that have conceded 4 goals all season. And arguably, there's 4, if not 5 chances that Hibs actually should just simply score a goal. Do you know, like, it is that. So that has to be the positive. But again, individual errors, would you suggest, for almost all 3 goals?
Yeah, that really kind of sums up a lot of our season and a lot of the games in particular that we've been maybe not burying teams. I don't think we would have went on to bury Celtic, to be fair, but individual errors, I think collection of individual errors, particularly for the first goal, like it's too easy for them. Maybe sleeping a wee bit down that left hand side. A beater coming back in. I'd like to have seen him done a wee bit better on the first. I thought he was on his heels really when the ball comes into him, or into Kuhn, and then loses Alistair Johnson round the corner. But it's a bit of the same old. I mean, it is a positive, don't we? It is a positive that we're creating these chances, but yeah, we need to bury them regardless of who it's against. I don't think it would have made a great deal of difference, like Liam says, even if we took these chances.
Can I just say something on the chances? I think is definitely a positive, but it's a very different type of chance that will be creating
Of
in
course,
the
yeah.
games that are coming up. No one is going to play that high a line against us in the league other than Celtic. Virtually all of our chances come from Celtic playing a really high line and us exploiting that. I think certainly the three in the first half. Ewan's is a press, a good, actually, situationally some good pressing from us, but a slack pass from McCowan. So I think you have to say, when Ross County come Easter Road on that, their centre backs were probably about 30 yards deeper in the park. So it's a whole different kind of challenge, and that's why you need different types of assets, different types of guys in the final third that can break teams down in that sort of
Yeah.
scenario.
The one that really stood out for me of the three, and you're right, even that came from their defence.
Originally,
the halfway line was but the second chance, Newell's, the one that resulted in Joe Newell putting the ball over the bar, which for me, and I've talking about XG, for me that should have been the one with the highest XG, but I don't think it was. Maybe
it was.
slipped, I don't know.
I think it has to take into account the slipped, but it's a weird one. It looks to me like he slipped after the contact. There was he wasn't stretching for the ball. So I've watched it a few times now, and I can't really for the life of me figure out why he's ended up on the ground, because he's not stretching for it. It's comfortably within reach.
I think it's the worst one, that, to be honest. I think that's the worst miss.
Situationally, it is for me, because you've got the whole goal.
Yeah, the whole goal is running onto it. It's the ball's a good pace. It doesn't bobble.
It's a great pass. It's a great pick out.
This is what I was going to say. I think it's actually if Hibs score that goal, you're watching Sports Scene on Saturday night, and it's one of them where they show you the little amount of passes in the bottom corner, because we actually really moved the ball about well in the build up to that goal. It was 1-0. I think it was 1-0, and it was about 15 minutes in, and it was at a point in the game I was going, we are actually doing all right here, and that was just when we were knocking the ball about, showing a little bit of composure. It wasn't like the game against them at Easter Road. Was it the second game of the season, when we sort of said after the game it was almost like we played what we thought Celtic were, and when we had the ball we were just getting rid of it. I thought at times in the game we showed real composure, and just that missing piece at the end of the game was really disappointing. Harry, I know that you've been critical of Joe Newell and Triantis throughout the season, and look, you can absolutely point to, look, I think Triantis is at fault for 2 goals, and Newell obviously scores an own goal and misses a chance, but in general play, do you know what I mean? I thought the midfield done well in the game, and again, it would be for me more of a positive than a negative.
We've been beat 3-0. We didn't have the best of the midfield. Like they were all right. Like I don't want to praise people for like being all right. Like they were completely fine. Like I don't think, obviously Triantis made a few individual errors that led to Celtic goals. Joe Newell, in my opinion, probably should have covered himself in a bit more glory for the second goal. I think during the game Joe Newell was fine. He had a nice range of passing, which is what I always want to see from Newell. But like I wouldn't give either them more than like a 6.5 out of 10. Not that they were bad, but I just don't think they were particularly good. Like as Liam touched on, like obviously, like the problem with Hibs is the amount of times in the last 2 or 3 seasons that we've said, if we play like that, again, we'll be fine. And we say it so often, and we didn't play like that again. Like that, for me, if we carry on a positive performance into the Ross County game, then we can look back and be like, the Celtic game was fine.
Yeah.
If we go into this game at the weekend and we draw or we get beat, then we get pumped off Celtic for no reason and we're pish. Like that's literally as blunt as I can be about it.
Of course
Like
it is, yeah.
the midfield being okay against Celtic doesn't matter to me, because as we always say, there's no such thing as a free hit. As Greg used to say, every game's an important football game to Hibernian Football Club. But realistically, against Celtic and Rangers away from home, if we get points, it's a bonus. Like they've got that much more money than us. So our performances against them, I try not to judge people off it. When people are as bad as certain people were, that's when I get really annoyed. So yeah, I didn't. Yeah,
no, let's
6.5 out of 10. There you go.
Let's leave the Celtic game there. A couple of comments come in on the YouTube chat. GXM didn't take Harry long, could see that simmering spot on about David. Lewis Connor agrees with you, Harry, about Mikos. Michael saves are overhyped as the shots were straight at him. Look, again, I think he should have done better, but like there was other chances in the game as well that were of similar quality of finishing. And JXM highlights that McCowan missed one similar to Newell where he hit the bar. I might have been offside anyway. But look, mentioned it.
Can I just say one last thing on the Celtic game that I think was really funny? It's annoying that it wasn't a closer game, because if we'd got a point, how funny would that Adam Ida miss have been when he like kicked the ball off himself and it didn't go in? That was brilliant. Because that XG, Liam, that must have been about a 2.3 XG, because it was literally an empty net and he kicked the ball off himself. Never seen that in my life.
Well, that's great. We said we were leaving it there.
I just thought it was funny. I wanted to mention something positive about the game.
Well, do you know what, Harry? Actually, you said today in the group chat that you wanted to potentially praise David Gray, and I was just wondering what.
I kind of touched on it earlier. I think like so many managers go to Celtic Park. Like that's one thing that we used to really praise Neil Lennon for, is the fact that we would go into these big games against Celtic and Rangers and we would actually try and have a go. Like sometimes we'd get battered for it, but the amount of times we've seen like us go and try and defend, which obviously we've not really tried to do under other managers, and just get the absolute piss taken out of us. Like David Gray set us up to get opportunities. We made opportunities, and it's not his fault we didn't stick it in the back of the net. So yeah, I think David Gray. And then the Ibrox game was also a positive. So he's had two really difficult away days, and he set us up really well for both of them. So I know I've probably been the most critical of Gray in terms of the way he sets the team up and his actual managerial ability out of all of us on the pods. But I thought, although in spite of the result, I thought that was one of his most positive impacts here in the game.
Aye. Well, look, Harry touched on it, I touched on it there, and around maybe the similarities coming out of Ibrox. A few months ago, we left Ibrox on the back of a defeat, decent performance, which followed a comfortable home win against St Johnstone after a couple of draws. So the environment isn't incredibly similar, Craig. But this Harry is right. Ultimately, this Ross County game, Harry says it every single week, and it's only 3 points, but it is a massive sort of must win for all different reasons, but even just psychologically as much as anything else this weekend.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, in particular this season, these games are massive. But these games every season are what make our seasons. The games at Celtic Park are never going to make us.
Whether you're going for relegation or third place,
these games at home to Ross County, Kilmarnock, St Johnstone away, New Year, like these are the games that make our season every single year. So it just so happens that now we're fighting with Ross County. So yeah, massive.
How do we look at the table and the fixtures and stuff? I think with just even a 1-0 win, and the worst you can be is 10th. The best you can be is 8th. And for me, like, whilst it would still the logic behind that is the fact that Hearts and Kelly play each other. So you would and a win, you go above Ross County regardless. So there's two teams you're jumping either way. But a few other results would mean that you could actually go as high as 8th in the table. Now, yeah, you're still looking behind you at because it'll be a couple points, you know what I mean? It won't be anything. But for me, like, if we can go into what is then a hard 2 away games with Aberdeen and Hearts, but just psychologically, not seeing your name at the bottom of the table, like, feeling like you've got a bit of breathing space. And I don't know, I feel like if you're sitting 8th or 9th, you're probably looking up more than you're looking behind, because that's how football fans work. So it is the definition of a must-win game. Liam,
sorry to jump in, but I just think in the games that we've got coming up, it's the 2 home games. You win the 2 home games, you get a point out of the other one. You're realistically sitting between 7th to 9th in the table, and you're at least like 4 or 5 points above the bottom. Like these 2 home games are coming up against teams that have struggled massively away from home. And obviously at the start of the season, Kilmarnock at any point looks like a tricky game, but Kilmarnock are really struggling. So for me, the Ross County game can't emphasise. And because that's if we lose those 2 games and we don't get results against Hearts and Aberdeen, then you're potentially cut adrift by like 3 games, that's obviously, it's a bit weird and scary looking at the table now. But if you get to that stage with difficult games on the horizon, that's when you get to horrified, and maybe a big transfer window couldn't even save it. So I think the Ross County and Kilmarnock game in the next 5 or 4 or whatever it is are both absolutely massive for us.
Liam, what do Hibs need to do to win the game?
Against Ross County?
Yep.
I think very much take the game to them in the way we did against Aberdeen, really, for the first 45 minutes. needs to be a level of intensity, a level of tempo that I think too often when some of the smaller teams come to Easter Road, I think it looks as though the players and sometimes the fans really struggle to get up for it. But I think we need to find a way of getting up for it, and should be this sort of time of year. I know it's a difficult time of year. Your sort of walk up attendances kind of get hit hard just by people having other costs. But I do think we need to really get an effort into back the team, because I don't really like talking about 6 pointers, but I do think we're at this sort of stage now where we can't really keep going kicking the can down the road and saying, I'll be fine if we just win in a couple of games time. We need to start winning games, and we need to start winning games now. Genuinely, there's still quite a lot to play for. I actually don't think it. I mean, I don't think we will, but I don't think it's out of the realms of the possibility that we finish fourth this season. But I also don't think it's out of the realms of the possibility to finish bottom. So, I just genuinely think there's that little between the teams in the league. I don't think there's an awful lot of quality. I think they're very average. I think we could string a winning run of 5 or 6 games together, and we talk that we're suddenly sitting having a very different conversation. I also think, to Harry's point, we could fail to win the next 5 or 6, and then it is, you are looking at needing the sort of January window where you're bringing in probably 3 or 4 really high quality players to fish us out of it. How did we look today, by the way? Out of curiosity, because I am a betting man. What price we are finishing in the top 6? Anyone what has to guess?
99 to 1. Nah, I'd guess about like 16.
I was going to go 8 to 1.
6 to 1.
Craig's closest, 13 to 2.
Oh, really? Oh, that's a bit disappointing. They keep putting us as favourites for games, though. Like,
Mate, that's because Bet365 go Hibs, bigger team than, and that.
I mean, you're probably right, but I think they also so we were 10 to 1 before the Motherwell game. So they've obviously adjusted for the fact that we've had Celtic in the run. St Johnstone are 100 to 1 on to finish in the bottom 6, by the way. And look at where they are in the league at the moment. They're 100 to 1 on to finish in the bottom 6.
Can I just say,
I reckon they've been alright, by the way. I think they've been okay for what I've seen of them under this new gaffer. But no, I mean, I don't think they'll finish top 6. But
I reckon the bookies have seen what you got. Dundee United play football, and they've been like, if they're that high in the table, literally anybody in the league. Every week, I'm going to keep on my Dundee United slander. I think they're pish.
I still think it'll just, if I was being a better man, I still think it'll be St Johnstone and Ross County in the bottom 2. Probably St Johnstone bottom. To counter your point, they're saying they're all right. I think they're trying to play better football, but I don't think they've got the players to do it. And I don't think St Johnstone typically don't attract the kind of players to play good football. So,
I think if you were going to,
near the fucking Hibs.
if you were,
fair point.
I would agree with you, Liam. I would still, I mean, just purely on size of club and budget. It's like when Livingston were in the league or when Hamilton were in the league. I'm not saying it's the easy or lazy option, but you do go, they'll probably be at the bottom. But Ross County, look, I'm fairly confident in saying this. If you finish above Ross County, you're not getting automatically relegated. And if I was to take it back to
hang on now. Did you say if you finish above them, you're not getting automatically relegated? Only one team goes down.
That's what I'm saying. I'm categoric in the fact that they're going down. Like,
score more goals in the opposition.
Sorry, aye. Sorry. I think Ross County are dog shit. But if you lose to them on Saturday, it's 6 points between us and them. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's sort of where I was trying to get back.
You ever thought about being a maths teacher, mate? That was brilliant. That was really good there.
Does Michael Owen once say when a goalie conceded his second goal of the game, he'll be gutted to lose his almost clean sheet or something? Or does that make
what was it?
He almost had a clean sheet.
They hardly ever win when they don't score.
That was bad.
Oh, that's a topper, man.
Basically, what I was saying is what I was going to say still doesn't make sense. I think Ross County are dog shit, and we should be beating them. But if you don't beat them, 6 points on anyone, because the side again, I'll go back to, I just think psychologically, everything, there's a better feeling around the club with at this moment in time after a performance against Aberdeen, a win at Motherwell, and a decent performance at Celtic Park. I go back to it was a similar feeling that I felt we had going into the Motherwell game at Easter Road after Ibrox, and that game killed it again. It is instrument. If Hibs win this game this weekend, I'm pretty calm about the rest of the season. If we don't, then fucking panic stations all over again.
Well, very, very confident we're going to win this game at the weekend. Like, I think they're shite. I think we're in a good vein of form. I genuinely don't see anything other than 2-0 Hibs. Like, that's just...
Who's the key players for you then, Craig?
Jack Hamilton.
That's
Oh, by
If
the
he's
way,
playing, Jack Hamilton is key.
I was listening to the game yesterday, and I was saying to my dad, I was like, "How is Jack Hamilton playing for a Premiership outfit? Like he's absolutely gash." And then the commentators bigged him up for some fucking save or catch he done or something, and then 5 minutes later, he fucking does what he does, gives the ball away, Rangers score.
His blooper reel must be one of the best. I don't know if you remember. I think it was the opening game of last season. Was he at Dundee? I think against St Mirren, and he's literally cost them like all 3 goals. One of them.
I'm reluctant to go in on goalies and blooper reels based on our season. To be fair.
Wait, we're a good judge of character. But anyway, sorry, Craig. Back to the original question. The key players for Hibs this weekend.
I think it's going to help us win the game. Well, I mean,
Jack Hamilton.
Ross County are going to sit in deep, really, aren't they? I don't think they'll come out and play much football. So you're going to need players maybe to unlock them, players putting balls in. Nicky Cadden, Junior Hoylett, Ellie Yuan, like these types of guys are going to be the ones that kind of unlock a defence and win us a game. Nicky Cadden from balls from deep. I think we need to try and load the box, get late runners in from the midfield and try and get as many bodies in their box as possible and put them under pressure early doors. Need to start quick, get a goal early so that the game doesn't just tick away and you get to the 60th minute, 75th, and you've still not scored. And obviously at that point, I would say your odds on favourites not to win the game by that stage. But yeah, get a goal early and then pile of pressure on for a second, and that's how you win that game.
For me, Ellie Yuan's got to be the player that drags us across the line this weekend. I think he's played well against Aberdeen and was decent at Motherwell, and maybe on another day probably would have got his first goals of the season, and he'd done his job well at the weekend. I think it's time that the promise we've seen in the performance turns into a couple of goals, or at least a couple of goal contributions. I don't think we've seen that end bit from him yet. Certainly that he's capable, but the signs are good. And I expect that we might see a change in personnel in the number 9 position. And I think Dwight Gale might bag himself his first goal at Easter Road this weekend. Harry, what do you think we'll see in that sort of attacking phase of the game? Just because obviously it was a bit more of a defensive setup at Celtic Park than we'd seen in the last 2 games.
I think Hoylett has to come back in. I think he likes playing against the lesser teams in the league, and he seems to have a bit more success against them. I know Liam slagged them off a bit when we brought him in because he obviously had good stats, and then Liam was like, "Aye, but it was against the weaker teams in the league." So obviously, against the weaker teams in the league is when you would hope that he would step it up. That wasn't a slight at Liam, but I was meaning the point.
It sounded like it was.
No, I mean the point that Liam made, like. If that rings true, then this is the type of game that he should actually be making an impact in. So I'd hope that he would play because I think he's looked decent enough, and especially when we don't need the legs against Ross County as much, just because he'll be sitting in so deep. I think he'll be important. It's just I don't know what you need to do in the midfield to make it actually function as an attacking option. I think the reason that Triantis and Yeo done better was because they just had less of the ball. In Dundee before.
I just make a point that Joe Newell scored against Aberdeen, hit the post and should have scored at Celtic Park, so I think he's doing all right in attacking phase.
All right, well, I'm glad that you accept the bare minimum, Ewan. Against Dundee away, I think that for the first time this season, the reason that the midfield looked good for the first 12 minutes is because they just tried to avoid having the ball as much as possible. They put it wide to Abita and Yuan, and then those two just had a field day until Abita got himself sent off. So I just think feed those two and hope for the best. Or if Cadden's on, feed those two and Cadden, and then hope for the best because that's about all we can do.
I'm not sure about this whole thing about it's been good without the ball. Really, is very true because I watched Nectar Triantis without the ball, and I think that's probably the biggest flaw in his game. Ironically, for a centre half playing number 6, he's actually really good on the ball. Triantis. For the most part, he's just absolutely hopeless in a positioning sense. Just application, determination, just approaches the game like he's horizontal. He's so laid back.
He's Australian.
He's upside down, maybe rather than horizontal. When When are we getting on to talk about these loan players? Because I'm
Oh,
fucking sick of them.
take us on to that. Garvin Stewart is the man who has been brought in as head of recruitment. Is that correct? Someone correct me.
No
Technical.
idea. Could be
I think
anything.
that's the correct title. I think that's the correct title.
Or- It looks like he's heading up his recruitment. What should be on Garvin Stewart's Christmas list, Harry, as we move into the January?
My thing is with him, if he consults anybody currently at the club, apart from David Gray, on who we should recruit, he should be sacked and replaced with someone else. Nobody at the team that's been part of the recruitment in the last 4 years should be consulted because they're shite at their job. Garvin Stewart should come in and do it all on his own with his own team because I'm sick of everybody bringing in pish players. What he should do, because apparently he's been down to Bournemouth and he's probably seen those players play, is he should just fill up with their best players and hope for the best, because the 5 loanees we got over the summer, as Liam wants to touch, 4 was it, sorry, 4 not good enough, all of them on January 1st, please, thank you for coming, goodbye. 4 new players in their spots that are significant upgrades. That's Garvin Stewart's. That's my Christmas list for Garvin Stewart. 4 new loan players on January 1st.
Like 4 new players on loan to replace the players that we've got on loan.
Aye, because loan players are fine, and we're not going to get solid permanent signings in January. That's the reason that we have problems every single year, because we get to the stage where we have to bring in crap or mid players in January if it's permanent.
That's what I was going to say. Are you talking about solid players, or are you talking about top level players? Because all I say is you can sign Paul McGinn in January. You can sign Chris Cadden in January. You can, you know what I mean? Like, there is ability to be had, or do you mean that you want top quality loan players like
I want players that'll be consistent. Being a Hibs, I just want players that are consistent 7 out of 10. Like, the reason I get so frustrated at these players is because they're like Triantis 1 week, like against Motherwell, man of the match, good 8 or 9 out of 10 performance. Next week, Celtic away, 3 out of 10. And he's been like that. Like, against his first 2 games, he was a solid 8 out of 10, really strong performer. Then the next 5 games, he was pish. I just want consistent players. Like, I don't need world beaters. I just the reason that St Mirren, Dundee, even Kilmarnock last year, the reason that they finish well in the league isn't because they've got the best players in the league. It's because they've got a cohesive unit of players that will consistently play decent standard of football, not 1 week really hot, 1 week shit.
It's a bit of contradiction in there, though, because part of the way you build a cohesive unit is through continuity rather than changing. And if you're going to take 4 players out and swap them and bring 4 players in, you perhaps lose some of the cohesion that you're trying to build.
What
I agree with
cohesion
that.
have we got, though?
Well, it depends. Harry,
he's starting with a slate of players.
It can always get worse, Harry. It can always get worse. That's the.
We're bottom of the league. How can it get worse?
It can definitely get worse. Trust me.
Well,
I
this is the
don't know.
thing.
If we can get to the end of the season and be worse than we have been to start the season, I'll be very, very surprised.
Anyway, I mean, just to close the lid on the subject, I agree. 1st of January, all 4 of them. Thank you for your service. And if there was a way of cutting them all, just cut them all.
What is the situation with that? Can we actually do that?
It depends on what the deal is between.
It depends on the break. You'd like to think there'd be a break clause in them. There's not one I would be really that fussed about keeping, to be honest. I know Triantis is playing week in, week out, but I would argue he's playing out of necessity rather than us actually wanting him to play.
I think my only concern is that, and that is exactly what you've just said, Liam. Actually, it is exactly the point you've made. I would just be worried that unless you bring someone in on the 1st of January that can play on the 2nd of January, who plays in the middle of the park. Do you know what I mean? Like that.
James Jago.
Players that are equally as shit. What are we saying here? If we lose Triantis, we're going to replace him with who? Levitt? Oh no, Levitt finally gets a chance. Oh no, Campbell, who comes in at the
Levitt's had a chance.
Oh no, Jake Doyle Hayes, who randomly got thrown in the derby, gets to play. Who fucking cares? Just stick anyone in there.
Question.
You're talking about it as if it's be an actual. Sorry, but if Kuhanovic leaves, who cares? If Kwon leaves, doesn't play. Triantis leaves, does nothing. Bursic isn't going to play for Hibs again. All of them should be gone, and it shouldn't be a decision. That saves money that you can spend on other players.
No, I am comfortable with it. I just would be worried. I think that the St Johnstone game, as we mentioned earlier, it's going to be a big game, and yeah, I think. Oh, look,
one last sorry, can I just confirm? So you would be worried if Nectar Triantis didn't play? Is that what you're saying? You would be worried if he didn't play at St Johnstone away?
I think in its current makeup of the squad, we would have more of a chance of winning at St Johnstone with Triantes in the middle of the park than Dylan Levitt.
Based off what?
The fact that Dylan
He's
Levitt
played nearly every
is
game this
shite.
season. We've won twice. What are we talking about here?
But Harry,
squad
what you're
is
forgetting
shit.
is
We're
we'll have
bottom
won
of the
four-
league. What
we'll
are we talking about? Why
we'll
are we
have
giving
won
people
4
passes?
games in a row before then.
Pardon?
We'll have won 4 games in a row before
If we win
then.
4 games in a row, keep them all. Let's win the league. Like, what are we talking about? We're bottom of the fucking league, and we're saying, "Oh, I'd be scared to lose Triantes."
Never said the words never left my mouth.
You said you'd be scared to play without Triantes.
No, never.
That's literally what you just implied.
Said worried. I
What
think
is happening here?
what I can see, I agree. I would be not bothered if all 4 aren't Hibs players on the 1st or 2nd of January, whenever the window's then closed. I don't think they'll be away on opening day.
Nah.
I do think the plan has to be to make improvement, because they are 4 players that have played substantial minutes in the starting 11 this season in positions that need improved. So I don't think they'll be out the door on the 1st of January, but I think if the option's there and the players are available to improve on them, they won't be Hibs players for the second half of the season come the
It needs to be ruthless. The window needs to be ruthless. But I think, the loan players are part of the issue, but there's obviously still quite a lot of other guys that are picking up a wage who, frankly, the club have deemed surplus to requirements. We've not touched on Nohan Kenna, Luke Amos, Harry McCurdy, for example, who, they're nowhere near it. Nowhere near it in terms of being good enough for Hibs, and nowhere near the squad. So, to be honest, from my perspective, I think if we were able to, I think there'd probably be 8 or 9 players moving on this window. I don't think that's going to happen.
Is there an acceptance, do you think, Liam, with the players that you've mentioned there, that they'll probably be here the rest of the season? Maybe because, for a start, they're contracted players opposed to the 4 loan players, but nobody wanted them in the summer? Or they were happy enough to sit out this far? What's going to stop them from sitting out another 6 months on that contract? Do you know what I mean? If anything, maybe they would have been more inclined to move in the summer.
But I mean,
maybe more teams would be desperate. Maybe in January.
The market's different in January, isn't it? Clubs are more desperate. Let's be honest, because to be frank, you'd need to be desperate to want to try and pick up some of those players. I think the market's different. They're 6 months however down line with their contract. I think that would leave Harry McCurdy 18 months. No, 6 months.
He's done. I think they're all done this year, I think.
So the 3 of those are done this year. Amos done this year as well.
Yeah, he was an 18-month deal.
So he's 6 months left on your deal. It's a nominal amount, hopefully, to pay them off and get them to look for another club. Part of the job of the sporting director is to find homes for these new players. Any sporting director that comes into the club, it's not just about bringing players in and making sure the football department is running as it should. It is about finding new homes for guys that can go and play and find somewhere that's suitable. We even went to the lengths of sending one of our players to fucking Luxembourg so that we could get him a deal. There's hundreds and thousands of clubs in Europe.
Someone will take them.
That someone has to be able to take these guys, or want to take them. Even if we have to subsidise a wee bit of their wages to get them to go. I was looking at the out of contracts in the summer. Obviously the numbers are huge in terms of 17 players that are contracted to move on. But there are clubs, we're not alone in that. There's a lot of clubs, a lot of players that are contracted in the summer, which would suggest there'll be a lot of movement in the summer. But I think there'll be a lot of movement in January as well. I just think with the league, as we talked about, with 4th to 12th being very fluid, I think a lot of teams will see this as an opportunity and go for it in January.
Is there anyone that you're looking at just now, Craig, that you think could move them on, but potentially the 4 games that we have between now and the window opening, you think they're going to see substantial minutes that maybe they could then change that narrative, change that opinion, or do you think it is sort of writing on the wall for, like, we very clearly know the players we would want to go?
Yeah, it's mixed. I mean, there's a couple. Bursick's not going to be able to change opinion. Like he's not going to play enough, and he's not going to be able to do enough to change opinion at this stage. Like he's gone. He's finished.
Or maybe let me change the question. Players that you maybe could change us from maybe wanting to improve on that position. So be that the centre halves continue to play well, maybe over the next 4 games. Jordan Smith plays well. Do you know what I mean? Is there anyone maybe that could actually just solidify their place in the team where you wouldn't go, I want any position upgraded, sort of, you know what I mean?
Jordan Smith would need to do some serious work to make me not want another goalkeeper at this stage.
Mhm.
And I think ultimately, the 4 games between now and then, if they do well and we get a few points on the board, you'd be silly to just sit on that and go, that's brilliant, we'll just stick with them. I think you have to take the wider sample size of the whole season, as it would be at that stage, and say, look, these guys aren't good enough. We've all been crying it for ages. So I don't think you can necessarily paper over the cracks in 4 games. Obviously, to go back to your question, the main one is Miko. Like, he's, by virtue of his position, that means that he is able to change opinion a lot quicker than the other ones. Because if he goes in and scores a hat trick or scores a few goals, then obviously then people will be switched away for that one. But I don't think, I'm kind of with you guys. There's not many in there that I would, not many, not just the lone players, by the way, not many in our squad at the moment that I would be raging about losing. Even though we have been a bit better recently. I'll be honest, I'm kind of with you and on the Triantis one. Like, out of all the lone players, I would rather not lose him. If any of them were gonna go out of the 4, he would be my last to go. But ultimately, if we can get better, then see you later.
I think for me, the one position, and I suppose we're not really utilised too much width in terms of changing to the sort of 3-5-2 or whatnot in the last few weeks, but I think the sort of winger scenario that we've got just now, it's not necessarily at the top of my priority list, but the whole spine of the team probably needs improved. You know, like I think you can get by with sort of Martin Boyle, Eliuan, Hoylett, Cadden. No, it's like a 4. Like, I think you can get away with that. Maybe Rudy can play where required, and I mean, hopefully Kieran Bowie's available. But I think my number 1 priority has to be goalkeeper, centre forward, centre midfielder.
We need a centre half. We do need a centre half.
I don't think we need a centre half in January though. Like, I think
disagree.
the players that we've been playing have been fine. Like, I don't think the centre backs are a massive issue. I think since we went to 3 at the back, apart from Celtic, I don't think they've been abhorrent. I think.
Do we have a centre back on the bench now?
We don't, and that's the issue. If we get one more injury, we're down to playing a full back at centre back, which worries me a wee bit.
The system there though, no?
Would you want to go back to a 4? Really, the way things have been going?
When we bring in our star midfielder and our star striker, we'll be fine playing any position, guys.
There's a couple of those centre halves that have been playing recently that I agree with you. They've been okay. But there's a couple of them that are very suspect, and I have doubts about. Warren Hora, he's on a strugly peg. Like, I'm not convinced about that guy at all. When he first came in, I was quite excited for him. But
I'm the same as you.
Yeah, defensively, positionally, I worry about him quite a lot, to be honest.
If all 4 of them are fit at the moment, Rocky starts over O'Hara. Like, I don't think it's a question. I think it's.
I'm not
We
convinced.
don't have a player on the books called O'Hara, but Warren O'Hara would potentially start it. I do think you can juggle things around a wee bit. You can put Lewis Miller in at right centre back or Jordan Abita at left centre back probably, and still just about make things work. But it's far from ideal. Let's be honest. I do think genuinely that Rocky's going in the summer, so why would you not just try and improve your bench strength there now by bringing someone in? You know, we're going to sign a goalkeeper, a number 6 and a number 9. I think absolutely nailed on. We'll go and try and get those 3 first. I would imagine that'll be the 3 priorities, and then once you've got them in, then maybe look at what other business can be done. Because I'd be honest, like, you know, if we can get Martin Boyle's wages off the books in January, I think you do that. There's no point in paying an impact sub the kind of money that he's getting.
What's the Australian season? Is that in off season now?
Don't know. It's fucking shite.
Would 4 be enough? You know, if you did go goalkeeper, centre back, central midfielder, striker. If you and they were players that you were expecting to come in and play. You know, they were of that sort of. They were of a standard where you go, I'm happy with them, and they, you know, hypothetically, they then perform well in the team. Like, is that enough to get us to where we need to be?
They're of sufficient quality, yes, but the massive if. They need to be good enough to come in and start games. We can't have another number 6 who's just as good as all the other centre midfielders that we've got in the books. We can't have a number 9 who's just as ineffective in front of goal as everyone else who would have got in the books. We can't sign another goalkeeper who doesn't make saves.
So let me. I'm trying to think of some examples here. And the goalkeeper's the one I'm struggling with for goalkeeper. But if we were to sign, and obviously not these players, but the standard, right, of a player that we've signed in January's and seasons past. So let's suggest it was Jamie McLaren as your sort of striker, or Canberry. Let's go Canberry. He was better. Let's say we say, because we're decent at a January striker signing. We've done that all right in the past. So let's say it was like a Canberry level, and then the player that immediately came to my mind for a January centre midfielder was Jimmy Jeggo.
Aye, as I mentioned him earlier, because did he not play in the derby like one day later?
Aye. And then I can't think of a centre half for a goalkeeper we signed in January. But if it was like that calibre of player,
CJ Egan Riley would be a better example, to be honest.
Oh, what a baller, by the way. I love that boy.
So does that calibre of player, well, Rocky came in January. Like, does that level of player take us to where we need to be? Or is it like need to sign a Malida, and, like, do we need that top level to get us away from where we are?
Can I just I think we're massively overcomplicating things. I think in Scottish football, if you're very good at one thing, it's enough to carry you up the table. Hearts last year finished third because Lauren Shankland had the season of his lifetime. They're the exact same team, and Shankland's been pish, and they're like, if anything, they strengthened over the summer. And look how bad they've been because their strikers off form. If Shankland gets back to form, they'll be fine. Like, we're just below par in each aspect of the game. Our defence, below par. Our midfield, definitely below par. Our attack, if you get Bowie up and running and you get a decent central midfielder that we have confidence can actually impact the game, Hibs will be completely fine. The reason is we're missing like an X factor.
So number one priority for you is a goal scorer, Harry.
Pardon?
Number one priority, a goal scorer.
Like I think after like, I don't think that like this Hibs squad, we've got players that if they were in other Hibs teams, they'd be fine. Like, it's because the whole collective unit has been shit that we think all these players are absolutely terrible. Like, if you get 2 really good signings in January, it's more than enough to make us comfortably avoid relegation. Like, if we get a Malida and we get a Marcondes equivalent, obviously, like, it should be realistic because we done it last January. Like, if we were to bring in that caliber player similar to last year, we'll be fine. Like, I know that we underutilized them because we played a really weird system under Montgomery, but if we sign Malida, I have no doubt that we would finish minimum 7th. Like, we need.
But we didn't do that last season.
Who's the 8th for him in the team last season?
Malida played last season.
He did. To give Harry his credit, he did say that we didn't utilise him enough.
Yeah, I did say Montgomery's strange system. And then I remember after Rangers, I thought my leader was really shit, which is hilarious. But yeah, no, I think if you sign one really good or two, like one really good player and another decent player, I think we're completely fine. But the problem is we signed a bunch of average to good, if we're being generous, over the summer. We didn't sign, like if we signed McCowan, that's why I said earlier, Liam gave me stick for it. But I said if we had McCowan, I think we're probably about 12 points better off at this stage of the season. Like,
so
I know
just to go back to my original
question,
question, but what's on Garvin Stewart's Christmas list?
If I can look McCowan on loan somehow, give me that.
A goalie, a centre half, an attacking midfielder, a striker, and move on some absolute deadwood.
Would you bring Dylan?
It's a defensive mid for me rather than an attacking midfielder, to be honest. I still think it's a number 6 they need. I think we need a proper number 6. Someone who actually balls to the wall, like can handle the cut and thrust of the game, can track runners as well. That would be good. Because we don't seem to have a number 6 capable of doing that.
Especially this is like the 14th season in a row we've needed a number 6.
Aye.
Tom de Bombadil. Why have I struggled so much there? I think I seen Bomb and then just Venti back in January? Question mark. Would you, if the option was there, Venti back in for Miko and then sign someone? But I don't know if similar to Martin Boyle, can you have a sort of Dylan Venti level salary in your squad as a sort of impact player?
Don't think he wanted to be at the club. I got the impression he was wanting to go, to be honest. He didn't look very happy. So I don't know if I'd want him to come back, to be fair.
I think we need someone more mobile playing this system, to be honest. Quite like Dylan Venti as a finisher, but I don't think he's going to be mobile enough to play the way we want to play.
Probably seen that a lot last season, didn't we? Where if he dropped deep, he just wasn't getting into the box to
Aye.
get on the end of some decent moves when he was surrounded by some decent attacking options.
He was misprofiled. He'd been great as if he played two centre forwards, one big bastard up with him that can run the channels and do all the donkey work, and him in the box. He'd be great, but I think it's an easy one to say because he's there and you can just bring him back, but it wouldn't be one that I would be looking to just I wouldn't know how to hang my hat on him for the rest of the season. Put it that way.
Liam GXM's asked in the chat to yourself about your comment about defensive midfielder. What if we could attract Silla from Dundee?
It's difficult because I've only really seen him play against Hibs and against Hearts earlier on the season, and whilst he's impressed me every time, in my head I can't be impressed by every single centre midfielder that Dundee have. So not all their centre midfielders can be good because Lyle Cameron's a very good player. Who if finances were possible, I would look at him in the summer. McCowan is obviously very good. I can't in my head think that all three of them are really good. Although he is quite effective at what he does, I wonder if he's just too basic, a la Alex Gogic.
Can I just throw out there as well? Like I think he's a decent player, but in January especially, we'd have to spend money on him. And he's 31. Like that would be another stopgap that we'd have for maybe 2 years. Like, yeah. Like obviously, if he's good enough, who cares about his age? But yeah, I just think we'd probably have to spend a decent few $100K to get him. And like Dundee wouldn't just give him up when they're having like on the table they're shit as well, but they're having an alright season. So yeah, I wouldn't go for him myself.
If you've got some sort of analytics tool. And we might have some sort of analytics tool. You can get like a 29-year-old Mark Milligan. I would be up for that.
Mark Milligan propaganda makes me
29, not the 33-year-old that we signed. Like someone that's still
slightly more agile version of Mark Milligan. Aye. He's definitely grew
better in time he's been away.
Years,
not me
classic.
And Craig absolutely adored that man, and we don't regret it, do we, Craig?
No, not one bit. Bring back Mark Milligan skipping centre halves when he's switching the play. That's the stuff of dreams for me.
That's my boy. That's my boy.
David Williamson in the chat, a 6 and a 9 all day long. Enough quality that's not being utilised properly already in other areas. Get a competent striker and a no-nonsense defensive midfielder and we'll be clear of the bottom. Guys like Mariah Welsh and Levitt are getting shunned for players for us to develop. Other players, inadequate players, i.e. Kwon and Shannon.
Did we not spend big money on Nathan Mariah Welsh?
Like it
was that not rumoured?
Oh no, wait, was it? Aye, he's good for Bournemouth, eh?
Someone said 800 grand, but I think it was probably for FFP. It was probably FFP purposes. He's not an £800,000 player because if he was, he'd be playing for us every week. And is even in the squad at the moment.
I don't know.
No, he wasn't. Lewis Melrose, why not bring Murray Johnson back from his loan and goals? Give him some first team minutes and develop him. I don't know how he's doing at Airdrie this year.
He's not getting. He's on the bench for some reason.
He's been dropped. Rangers
was he dropped? Did he ever start?
He started the season. He started like the first 10, 12 games in. They've signed the boy on loan for Rangers who's playing. So
I think he actually dropped a clanger earlier on in the season, right at the start. I don't think he had a great start to the season. That's maybe why.
So probably pass on that. I'm going to just ask you all one question then, because I appreciate, Liam, you've highlighted a defensive midfielder, but I would suggest over the recent weeks that our biggest, most consistent gripe has been goalkeeper and centre forward. And ultimately, goals win you prizes. So between the two, and we have sort of brushed over, but do we need a top quality player between the sticks more than we need a top quality number 9 because of what other options we've got in the final third? If you could have, you get your centrepiece signing and then everyone else is maybe just a level below. Do you want the number 9 to be the centrepiece or the goalkeeper to be a centrepiece? And all three is just have your say on that. But you first, Liam, seeing as I say, John.
Probably the number 9, to be honest. Just think, in terms of excitement factor, I like a good goalie, but I didn't really get excited about a good goalie. I didn't get up out of my bed in the morning on game day and think, I can't wait to go and watch Aston Oxford or Will Dennis playing goals. It'll be a great day. You get excited about seeing guys put the ball in the back of the net more than you see them stopping it. So be a number 9, but a goalie would be second in and that's probably third actually in priority. I'd sign a number 6 before I'd sign a goalie. I think it's that. I think it's that critical to a football team now. I do think the goalie is massively important. Like, don't get me wrong, but I'd still say number 6 first.
Goalie becomes less important as the less they've got to
Aye.
go. Jose, I have to say, I know our issue has been taking chances, but I think the goalkeeper has to be a man. I think that has. I mean, see, to be honest, and I know the way I've teed it up about having the number one, like that level above. Go and just sign Will Dennis. It makes sense. He was a competent goalkeeper last year. Bring him in for 6 months. He was an average Scottish Premiership goalkeeper, and I just think that's all we need. I know. No, yeah, but Liam, right now we've got goalkeepers. Yeah, but right now we've got goalkeepers that are costing us goals. Like you just say, I think you can get away with a goalkeeper that is competent. So just go and do that, and then build for there. But
sorry, I was going to say, just jump in. If Will Dennis is your goalkeeper signing, like, that's no the centrepiece.
No,
not for a second.
No. I would like the goalkeeper to be the centrepiece, but then also I would like the goalkeeper to be the centrepiece. But Will Dennis does make sense.
Well, signing Will Dennis in that scenario is going out for a fillet steak and ending up with a smash burger. Like, it's no the sort of thing that's going to get people excited. I actually think what we need is a goalkeeper of the sort of experience profile, hundreds of games, 30-something years old, can organise defence in front of him, tell players where they need to be, and plays the role of essentially a goalkeeper who's a captain at the same time.
David Marshall.
Harry, let's address the elephant in the room. What the fuck is a centrepiece goalkeeper? And where are we getting that in January? What a nonsense question. Am I wanting a world-class keeper or a world-class striker? Give me the striker 10 times out of 10.
Forgive me, but I don't think Hibs are signing any world-class players this January.
I don't care. I don't care. No, listen, like, we're talking nonsense here. The reason that we need a goalkeeper, as Ewan touched on, is because Bursic is potentially the worst keeper that we've ever seen. Like,
can we just pause actually? Can I just say, if Hibs had a goalkeeper of Ophir Marciano's quality in this team, he'd be the best player in the team.
Aye, obviously.
So it is possible. Thanks for interrupting me, Ewan. As I was saying, Bursic is, objectively speaking, with fact and based off the eye test, is potentially the worst keeper we've seen at Hibs. That's like a realistic thing to say. And then Jordan Smith, I know he had a pretty good outing despite the fact he shipped 3 goals against Celtic. I actually thought he was all right. And then against Motherwell, he literally had nothing to do saves wise. But just the way, for me, he still doesn't look like a natural goalkeeper. Like, the way he does things just doesn't look natural, and I'm scared that at some point.
It back out to Celtic for that cross ball into the box.
Sure. Aye. Which he done at Motherwell, which Craig highlighted actually and set us off for a good chance.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, for me, like, we don't need a top keeper. Like, the reason that Will Dennis is a fine signing is we need, like, it's the same 7 out of 10 thing. Like, I'm not expecting someone that's going to pull off wonder save after wonder save. I just want, if a shot's right at the keeper, I don't want it fumbled in the middle of the box. If a shot's going towards the roof of the net, I don't want the keeper to fall underneath it. Like, I just want the bare minimum from the goalkeeper. So if you can give me a quality striker and a bare minimum goalkeeper, then we're sorted. Because the reason that we're struggling so much in the keeper department is they've signed 2 players that are nowhere near the quality to finish above 10th in the Scottish Premier League. Like, realistically, those 2 players, I don't think get a game. They maybe get a game over Jack Hamilton. That's probably realistic. But apart from that, they don't start for any other team in the league. They might not even get on the bench for other teams in the league. So goalkeeper, just give me someone that has been scouted, because surely they've not watched either of those players in person. Surely they've not seen them and thought, you know what, I want them to come to Hibs. Like, I really, 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 if I could do anything, it would be to see how this recruitment team came up with those 2 players as options for Hibs, because I'm bamboozled. So get me an okay keeper, and then get me a decent striker. Like, I don't, like, didn't go for a Hoppy, because that was an absolute nightmare.
You're not saying him.
Yeah,
there's no need to look at a player of that profile to get us out the shit. Like, that was a experimental, we'll just try it. It's going to cost us much money. Sort of sign him.
Like, a striker. I know you said that, like, we've normally had like a good hit record, but we've also had some absolute stinkers come in January as well up front. Like, it worries me because they can be 50-50. But as I say, if Bowie comes back and he's on all cylinders, then I think that'd be enough. Get me a decent keeper, get me a striker that's all right. And as Liam says, like, I don't know if it needs to be a 6. I just think it needs to be an impactful midfielder. I think the midfield's been moot all season. We just need any player in the middle of the park to actually impact the game, whether that be defensively consistently or moving forward consistently. I don't think we need to have world beaters. We just need good players that are good enough.
It does need to be a six, and I'll tell you why it needs to be a six, because we've got loads of those types of midfielders already. We've got loads of number eights. The squad is just fully number eights. Joe Newell, number eight. Dylan Levitt, number eight. Jake Hayes, number eight. Nathan Murray-Welsh, number eight. Luke Amos, nah, I'm not even going to have my jersey number. Noah Kenna, six probably, you would say, but no fancy. Did I say Jake Hayes already? Eight. Molotnikov, 10 probably, potentially an eight. You know, we don't have a guy in that profile, and that's other than Triantis, who's no really a number six. He's a centre back who's been converted to play number six, and he's not very effective there. So you go and sign a specialist player who is built, to your point earlier on, Harry, sign specialist players to play in that position. Don't try and just sign guys and just think, oh, that'll fit, we'll make it work. Go sign it with a plan, with a system in mind, and a way you want to play in mind. And I think that's probably in some respects why Gray went for Triantis and Karavich, because he was signing things that he knew. He's seen them, he knew them. But I think the reality is probably both of them have been poorer this time round, marginally poorer than they were when they came the last time round, and they're both older. So you'd expect them to develop more, but they haven't worked. Quan, 8 as well, by the way, while we're counting number 8s. Quan's an 8. I mean, what happened to him? Just...
Another thing, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we got Gray as manager and the way he spoke, like, I wasn't expecting us to play like liquid football. I was expecting us to play fast, like energetic football. And I just think the players we've got just don't fit that mold at all. Like, I was just expecting us to be the type of team that would just like run after everything, and by the end of the game, all the players would just look absolutely knackered and broken because they'd put everything in. Because that's the type of player that David Gray was, and I thought that he'd want a team built around him like that. And the way that he spoke about the way he wanted us to play when he first came in and got the job, I just don't think we've got those players at all. And I think the system that we've got now kind of covers the weaknesses that we miss. Like, we just cover more of the pitch. Like, we're just better set up in this position. So yeah, for me, we just need to stick with what we've got, and then hopefully in the summer, we've been saying for about 8 years we need a rebuild. That's probably dramatic. Harry Purble, is that what we're calling it? But yeah, I just give David Gray a chance. Like,
yeah, that's key to what you're saying there, though, Harry. Is you're saying obviously he's come in, he's talked about the way he wants to play, and we've not got those players. But obviously that takes several transfer windows for him to turn around what he's come in with, or what he's come into, and turn that around into the players he wants. And obviously, as you've all been saying for numerous weeks now, the summer is massive because you've got so many players out of contract, and it's that chance to build with more of the players that he wants. So unfortunately, I think January is just kind of like a plaster over the wound, make sure we don't get relegated and look to the summer.
Is there anyone got any specific players in mind for the positions that anyone that you have seen in the league or in another? I've got to be honest, there's not been many players that I've seen this season. I thought they could definitely come and do a job. The one that I think, I don't know even if it's a player, I don't think I'd be over the moon, but I do like the look of the St Johnstone striker that got sent off the road. I think he looks a real handful and a decent threat. I don't know what I don't know if there's a scenario there that Hibs could get that player, but I don't think St Johnstone are awash with funds right now. So I don't know if potentially he could make an offer there. Not sure what his contract offer is. He's the only one, and like Lyle Cameron as well. But
you're not going to get anybody from our league that's been doing well, because if we're looking at loans or free contracts or whatever.
Why can't we though? Like, I'll go back to like Paul McGinn. Like, we paid a small fee for him. He was out of contract in 6 months. He'd been playing for a team that St Mirren we were sort of lower mid-table at the time. I'm guessing that St Mirren must have been about the same as us at the point in time. Like, there must be, like, you didn't have to go and spend, like you say, Moriah Welsh was, it doesn't matter how much it was, but you didn't have to go and spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds on one player if the funds are there. You can be smart in your business and bring a level of player in that, do you know what? Say maybe in 2.5 years' time, they might not be where you want them, but see, for 18 months they might be. Do you know what I mean? Like, they might get you through the shit and then you can start to transition them out. And that's an effective model. That's a sporting director that's planning for the future as being effective. There has to be a profile of player out there that can come in and function at Hibs for 18 months to 24 months and then be moved on.
I think there probably is in this league. I can't profess to have seen a whole lot of them, but I think Richard Taylor at St Mirren's one that we potentially would look at just based on his age, and I think the fact he's done very well for St Mirren in the league. Like I say, he's not someone I've seen a huge amount of, but maybe as the middle centre back in a 3, he's someone that could work. What are you laughing at?
Just in the chat, GXM, he's gone for the guy at St Mirren, the striker at St Mirren. He's went for
Lasagna.
They called him lasagna.
Or him as well. I mean, just go back to our old transfer strategy that Harry hated, to signing St Mirren players, all Lasagna and what's the boy called? Richard Taylor, I just mentioned. I don't think there's a lot of talent in the league, to be honest, Ewan, to answer your question, that I would be, thrilled about signing. I think Kimpioka works in a 2, but I don't think necessarily if you're going to play one up would
I think
work.
we'll be playing. I expect that. I might be wrong. I think we will see 3 at the back for the rest of the year.
Right. Okay.
That's my opinion. I might be wrong, but then I've thought that suits us best all year, and it took us till a couple of injuries and suspension to see it. So who knows? One player that I'd mentioned I was looking at in the summer, and he's played more at Kelly this year, but I think with the emergency hire deal, it makes it not necessary in terms of that left hand side. That was Robbie D's. He's got back into the Kelly side this year, but he's out of contract in the summer.
So he's got back into the Kelly side, which has coincided with them being worse this season as well. So to use Harry's logic, that's a signing we really shouldn't.
I just think if we're using Harry's logic, then I'm not sure what we end up with. But
how am I being attacked for not wanting relegation? What? Using Harry's logic, oh yeah, let's sign players that won't have us bottom of the fucking league. Let's not play players that have got us bottom of the league. Like, what is that thinking? Ken, if you're talking about Kilmarnock, though, this is surely the perfect time to try and get Danny Armstrong, no?
Well, I was actually just about to say that, yeah, like, is there, like, are players
like if we're talking about trying to make
Danny
smart
Armstrong?
business, pick teams that are playing shit but have got the odd good player here and there. Like, that's why, like, Robbie D's would be good thinking.
Good player, but it's not a priority for us, like a winger.
Exactly.
But that's like if you have enough, like, he's a good player. Like he's the type of player, kind of like Paul McGinn. Like, I don't think he's one of the best players in the league, but I think if he played for Hibs, he'd get a game every week and he'd be fine. Like, we just need more, like,
mentioned them enough. They could just go and sign Paul McGinn.
No, but seriously, like, we don't have enough.
Can you
of those
imagine
players.
that conversation?
Oh God, Christ! No, I was thinking to myself, the meme of the guys and they're sitting like the Trappist, and it's like, oh, go and give him a bell. The guy's like, oh, go and what's up, young good day, and go and give him a bell.
Where's Mark McNulty these days? Is he still like the third division American football?
Hey, no,
I do enjoy when we get a bit
delirious.
Aye, that's it.
No, I had to look on Nary's toe poker earlier on to see who was out of contract, and there's genuinely. I always like to look at the boy Laturi at Ross County, but he can't get a game for Ross County, so no way he's ever going to get near
last season. Every time I watched him play, I thought he was absolutely class.
Industrious player, and he is a number 6, but if he's not getting a game for Ross County, I don't think we'd be happy with that, would we?
So generally speaking, I think we'd probably all agree that we do need players that have got some relevant experience, but there's no players in the league that we think we should sign.
Do you know who I would take? But would be, and he's quite injury prone, and he'd be a very unfashionable sign. Ross Docherty at Dundee United, such a good football player. He's genuinely, outside of the Old Firm, probably the best number 6 in this league. But he's no fit.
Do you think?
I was going to say he's very injury prone, isn't he?
He's very injury prone, but he's a very good player.
He's
Honestly, I was so impressed with him in Partick. Honestly, it was the games Partick in that running towards the end of the season. He was just the guy that made them tick, and then they took him out of the team, and they were hopeless. But he's too injury prone, so it's hypothetical.
If we want to sign injury prone, Kyle McGuinness got back in the Kelly squad at the weekend.
Did he?
He came off the bench.
Another number 8. We could add to our stockpiling of number 8 midfielders.
There must be a way that you just play all of them. and just go, right, off you go, lads. Just off you pop.
Like Lennon against Kilmarnock when he just named 7
100
defenders. Just play 7 number 8s.
Right, let's play 7 defenders and proceed to still lose 3-0. That was a good day. that was fucking fantastic. Bring back Neil Lennon. He was a winner. He got it. We had a goal everywhere we went, except
Oh my
Kelly away,
God.
except Hearts away, because we sat in every fucking time under him at Tynecastle. Oh, boys, I think we need to call this a pod. It has been an enjoyable last half hour just shouting at each other about what we need. But basically, the conclusion is we need an entire new team, regardless of how the next 4 game goes. We'll probably have this conversation the next 3 weeks through to the January transfer window. We'll continue to have it every week in January. And then in mid-March, we'll start talking about the summer transfer window. It is absolutely that time of year. Boys, have a very good night, everyone. Thank you for watching and thank you for listening. Cheers.
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 Oh.